bear with me. I'll do my best, and we won't stick to these slides too much. All right, so this is just a broad overview of our rental assistance programs. There's actually two right now. So the ones that we've been operating the most is funded through the federal government's CARES dollars, and those are set to expire December 30th, as well as the ERAP program, but we'll get to that in a second. We are hearing murmurs that the Congress is considering extending that deadline beyond December 30th, and the county is actively encouraging them to do so. Because we think, one, the pandemic's, the need's not going to end in January. We know that for sure, and the county is very aware of that, and we are very actively trying to get that deadline extended. But the other thing is, this is a lot of money to move by December. So we're talking, tens of millions of dollars that the county has to get spent before December. Pierce County alone was allocated $157 million. Of that, $30 million has gone to community resiliency, and part of that is this rental assistance program. So, that has to be spent by December 30th. So it's not simply that we contract with a separate agency. We need to get those dollars spent by that date. And so we want to try to avoid turning those dollars back into the federal government, given that, this is going to be a while for us to get these dollars spent. So we have the CARES program. The second program that we're standing up as we speak is the ERAP program, which is federal dollars being passed through the state, and each county across the state are receiving some of these dollars. So of that, Pierce County was allocated $11 million, and that pours into our youth and young adults. So I'm going to go ahead to the next slide. So here's the breakdown. The CARES funding, the programs that we're currently running, is about $4.2 million when you exclude the mortgage assistance and the veterans assistance. Veterans have received another $700,000, and then the mortgage assistance has received about $2 million, from my understanding. So all of that coming from this CARES pot. The county can shape those and really determine what we want to do with them, and that's where we landed at 80% AMI or 100% AMI for those who are veterans or seeking mortgage assistance. For these next two buckets, the ERAP program and the Youth and Young Adults program, the county has less control over. So that's going to be the state largely determining where and how we spend those dollars. So those are strictly spent on rental assistance. They have to go to landlords. They have to go to keeping people stably housed. And the state has set the bar at 50% AMI. We're telling the state that that's actually not going to be, initially we were thinking, hey, we need to be at that 100% AMI or 80% to really help get these dollars spent in time. But honestly, in the applications that we've received, most people are at about 20 to 25% AMI. And if you look at their prior incomes, they were higher years prior. I know in the veterans data, we had high income earners that were high income last year that would be well outside the 100% AMI mark, but this year they're dropping down to 20% AMI. So we don't think the 50% AMI will be as much of a burden as it seems, because folks are just not, those who are applying aren't, they're not making the money that they would have been making. They're not meeting those the high standard of income. And then through the ERAP program, about 1.2 million have been allocated to youth and young adults. And so that's households where no one is above the age of 24. Which is important. The state maintains control and can shuffle those dollars around, but they wanted to set aside a pot specifically for youth and young adults to make sure that they get something out of this, and we can then, reassess whether or not the dollars are well spent at that point. I could tell you in veterans data, so far, our average age has been about 41, our median age, which is actually very low for us. Usually we see people in their 50s to 60s as our average age for our program. So, we are seeing the data backs up that younger folks are being affected by things a little bit at a higher rate. I don't know specifically in the broader rental assistance data what they're seeing at this time. They're still doing analysis, but I'm guessing it reflects that to some extent. Okay, so we are now talking about CARES program. So under the CARES program, here's your eligibility, as I already kind of mentioned, 80% income, area median income, and then they have to be affected by COVID-19, and then they have to have a lease in their name. So we can't support them if their name's not on the lease. But those are those are pretty flexible standards. We can really flex on COVID-19 impact and see how things stack up when we get the person in for their assistance. So the next thing is we can provide up to 3 months rent, but they have to prove to us that they're behind on rent. And one of the things we're seeing is when the moratorium on rental evictions was not necessarily being lifted, right before it got lifted, we saw a pretty significant spike in the amount of applicants for our programs. So veterans programs saw a 440% spike in applications in the weeks where the moratorium was potentially going to lapse. And so what we believe is going on is that folks are not necessarily feeling the urgency to get out and apply for things. But it complicates things if you wait on that. If you're coming to us with a $2,000 in arrears versus somebody who's coming to us with $7,000 in arrears, it really muddies the process and makes things difficult for us. So we are doing whatever we can to get the word out, and I will talk about that later on. So then the application process. So the county, we work together and we created a singular point of application where everybody goes into, and we have algorithms and everything to evenly distribute people between the providers. But the other thing that does is it allows us to centralize the data to kind of do that analysis throughout the process and determine whether or not somebody should go to a veterans bucket or a mortgage assistance bucket or a rental assistance bucket. So really our goal there is to make sure that the veterans end up in the veterans bucket so that they're not taking away resources that would be available to the broader public. And it seems pretty successful so far. Right now, as of just about an hour ago when I pulled the data, we've had 350 applications for veterans assistance. And about 1,900 applications for rental assistance countywide, which is, pretty good. We're doing quite well. Just so you know, one of the reasons we operate veterans assistance programs, and I like to talk on this because I'm the veterans programs manager, Pierce County is not only on track to have the largest veterans population in the state, but the next largest veterans population will be San Francisco area in comparison to us here. So you got to go pretty far ways to have a veterans population, the likes of which we do. And not only that, but we have a constant flow of veterans. So while every other county, practically speaking, across the country is seeing a decrease in their veterans population, ours is staying relatively stable because our veterans are much younger and they're coming from JBLM, which is our largest employer in our county. So, having dedicated resources to veterans really helps expedite the process because we have that relationship with the VA and with the military base to help get people plugged into the assistance. Okay, so moving on. So now talking to the ERAP program. The ERAP program, so again, the CARES program is $4 million, ERAP 10 million. And this program is, again, run by the state. So it's 50% area median income. You have to have either been homeless at one point, so you have to have a record of homelessness, you have to have an eviction history, you have to be a marginalized community, or you have to be disabled. So they have some strict criteria of what that is, a little bit more strict than our 4 million, where we just have to show that you owe rent. It could be a letter from your landlord or something to document that you owe rent. So it's a little bit more strict. They're outlined there. You can get 3 months of assistance. Again, the nice thing about this program is they can pay into the future. So what's nice is you do one time, one stop, pay out all 3 months. And that's a really nice mechanism because basically it cuts down on the case management, as most of you know. It cuts down on the amount of times you really have to meet with the client and process the payment every time. Whereas the county's program right now, the way we're running it, you have to come back month after month and then redo the process and get the next months of assistance, and it kind of slows things down. So the intent here with this program, the 10 million, is to speed up the spending and speed up the assistance getting out. It's going to be done through the same online portal. So basically the clients won't even know that they're applying for a different program, which is really nice here. So they really just, one-stop shop, one website, and the application is very simple. It took me, my first time doing it, less than 10 minutes to just fill this thing out. The catch there is we are experiencing some significant wait times. So right now, with the high volume of demand, with the 1,900 folks that have applied, we're averaging for our rental assistance program about a 10 to 12 day wait period before they hear back from a provider. And that's just because providers are getting bombarded with these applications. There's just a lot of volume to handle here. And the county is actively trying to make that easier and look at ways to see, hey, do we need to try to spend more money on staffing? What can we do to help out where we can to get this process moving smoother and faster? For the rental assistance programs for the veterans, it's about a 3 to 4 day turnaround. So we're a bit faster, but again, we had the infrastructure and we've been doing this for quite some time. So it wasn't very hard for us just to use our existing infrastructure and ramp up to meet the volume. So, and then the final piece, which I don't know as much about, but the youth and young adults, which is 1.2 million, and I kind of brought this up. The only difference really between this and the $10 million is that no one can be over the age of 24 in the household. So it's just a specific set of dollars trying to target youth and young adults. So here is a list of all the providers we have going right now for our CARES programs. I believe the application is still live for the ERAP program, and I know Valerie and Jeff from my team are working very hard to try to encourage folks to apply for those dollars as well, to try to receive those. I'm sure they'll be posting the link soon, or letting people know soon who's getting those awards. But it's so much money that we understand there are just a limit on how many providers currently exist in Pierce County and what they can actually take on. So hopefully we get a good bit of people and organizations that are interested in this, but still time will tell. Okay, and then this is coming on. This is the buy-in for agencies. And I'll send this out to everybody if they don't already have it. So you guys can take a look at this more thoroughly. Okay, so this is kind of going into more of the applications for, the providers and stuff. I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on it because it's not my expertise, but I'll try to answer questions after this about it. I skipped over outreach plan. So I had mentioned earlier that during the span of time between when we thought the eviction moratorium was going to lapse, that we saw a pretty significant spike in applications, 440% just for the veterans. So that gave us kind of a hint at what the community is feeling and the lack of urgency there. We've been talking to landlords, and a lot of the local landlords are saying, hey, this is something landlords are feeling more than necessarily renters. So we've been engaging and coming up with communication strategies for landlords, and we're talking thousands of landlords in Pierce County alone. So we've been doing our best to get flyers out, get email chains, host meetings, talk to meetings like this, where we just really want to get the word out to landlords who are feeling that urgency to let their tenants know that these programs exist, because the qualifications are going to be on the tenant side, whether or not the tenant is going to be eligible. But the landlords, again, they may be that mom and pop that feels that pain because their mortgage is still coming due. So we're doing our best to market to landlords. We're also working on social media. So we're doing a ton of broadcasting on social media. I don't know if you've seen the ads. They're rolling. We're doing paid and targeted advertising. And then we've also just recently expanded to TV, and radio, which has been really successful. We're hearing when applicants apply, we're doing some survey data to say, hey, where did you hear about this? A lot of them are coming from radio and TV. And when we rolled out, when the radio and TV ads went live, we also saw a spike in the applications that week. So that tells us, hey, we were missing a demographic, and we hit that when we started those programs. These are kind of costly and time consuming for the county to do. But again, our goal here is trying to reach everybody that we can and get these dollars spent. So right now we're working on zip code data to see if we are missing particular zip codes. And if we are missing those zip codes, we're going to do some targeted strategies to reach out to those zip codes. So, you know, if we're missing particular parts of the county, we're going to try to increase our outreach there. The other thing and we're kind of limited to this because of the pandemic, we're doing some in-person outreach, and that's through food banks, churches, and schools. We're trying to plug into like lunch delivery programs at schools. Hey, they're going to hand off a flyer. One of the creative things we're doing is the mobile testing. If you've been paying attention to the COVID-19 mobile testing unit that's going out to different communities and doing free testing. Now they're handing out brochures for rental assistance, because those who are getting tested are also asked to quarantine until their test results get back. And if they test positive, then, you know, that's an additional 10 days that they may be in quarantine. And so the intent there is to let them know, hey, if you're unemployed right now because you're waiting for test results, you are definitely eligible for these COVID-19 rental assistance programs. So we're getting really creative. We're doing everything we can, and it's taking up a ton of our time to try to get word out, because we want people to feel that urgency a little bit stronger. Okay, so how to apply for rental assistance. Okay, so there's this link here, and again, I'll send this out to everybody. It is a super short application, very short, takes no time at all. And you can even upload documents onto the application. So if you've got your lease, if you've got your, you know, what have you, proof of income or anything like that, it will ask, do you want to upload it there? And that will help expedite the process for the document collection for the case management side. We're seeing a lot of people are doing that, so that's great. And we just stood up this week on Monday a call center option. So I have that phone number. I'm going to read it out to you all because it's not on the slide yet. It's 253-798-7171. So it's 253-798-7171. And the benefits of the call center is, in that 12-day window before these folks hear back from a provider, so, you know, they submit their application, then they have 12 days that they may be waiting anxiously to hear back from some of these providers. This call center is there to answer those questions. Did my application get submitted properly? What do I need to do now? What provider have I been referred to? When will I hear back from them? You know, they're going to answer a lot of those remedial questions that are not relevant to case management. So the call center won't be able to do any case management for you, but they'll be there to answer those questions. And unlike an FAQ sheet that you see on a website, this kind of helps you keep from shouting into a void. Somebody is physically going to be there to talk to you and to help you understand the process, and, you know, maybe even refer you to other programs and such. Or, you know, if there's some corrections that need to be made, you know, we have a lot of people with user error who never click submit on their application. We're working on trying to figure out why that is, but we see about like 2 of them a day. We want to make sure that we have somebody there that says, oh, it looks like you didn't click submit. Let me do that for you. The other thing that the call center provides us is they can actually fill out an application for you on your behalf. So for those who have limited Wi-Fi access, or those who have, you know, limited capabilities, maybe they can't read or something like that properly, this is going to give them that option for somewhere to have them help them fill out the application. And this was important to us just because if you look at our target demographics, you know, if you're not paying rent, you're probably not paying for your Wi-Fi bill, you know, and so we want to make sure that there are multiple ways for you to fill out this application and that we have folks standing by. The call center hours are 8 to 4:30, which is not necessarily ideal. We would have loved to have something running 24/7, but, you know, we're limited on funds and capacity right now. but there is a detailed voice message option. It'll ask them to leave a voicemail. They can do that after hours, and the call center is great. They'll call you first thing the next morning and get in touch with you. So they've been doing really, really good job. And if you don't pick up the phone on the first attempt, they keep trying. So they will continue to try to get a hold of you until they get through. So we're excited about the call center. We hope it's a great asset to everyone. So this is a bit about the application process. Things are a little bit more simple for the veterans assistance. If you apply for veterans assistance, you're going to get my team. We're going to help you because we are the only provider on that front. For mortgage and rental assistance, the system will do some algorithms and make sure that, if a client particularly wants to work with a certain agency, they can put that preference in, and the algorithm will try to get them match that agency. But beyond that, it fairly distributes everyone based off of, how many each agency have received. So, it's just a computer system. It divvies them out equally, and we can monitor that from the county's end. The other thing that the program does is if you give us your contact information for your landlord, the minute you click submit on that application, your landlords are notified that you sought this assistance and that there is a 15-day turnaround or something, which is really great because that means that the landlords, have some inclination that this is coming, that this client has reached out to them, that their tenant has reached out to them, and that the assistance is coming. And the recipient, the client, receives a notification that they need to wait approximately 15 days. They also get a confirmation number and email and all this such, and then they're directed to call the call center if they have any questions, which is really good because we're seeing right now, at least for the veterans programs, since we stood up that call center, a lot of those calls that we were receiving, my case managers were receiving, that were simply, hey, what is income? What constitutes income? What constitutes COVID-19 impact? What, was my application submitted? All those questions are now being handled at the call center, which is helping my team expedite the case management process, stay on the phone line with the clients instead of trying to answer those questions, which is really important right now more than ever since we are in this pandemic and my team, my case managers cannot meet face-to-face with clients. So it's very important that we don't tie up our phone lines trying to answer very simple, very basic questions. And so the call center seems like it's working for that. So and then finally on the application process, if you're approved, assuming you're approved, and most people are, I think right now we're only seeing like a 2% denial rate, like 2% of the applicants aren't eligible or something like that. It's very small. When we finally go to cut the check is sent directly to the landlord. So the client never touches the check. There's no cash given to the client. They don't have to worry about that. Everything is done directly with the landlord. So that is about it. That I did my best to do a very broad summary. I think some key points for upcoming stuff is that we are actively trying to constantly do outreach. So we're working on that. We're coming up with new strategies and working with different partners. The other thing that we're trying to do is encourage the federal government to extend that deadline for the December 30th. So that way we are prepared to go into the next year. My understanding is that there's been actually a lot of talk around that. Basically what they want to do is the CARES dollars that have already been allocated, that Congress, both the Republicans and the Democrats in both of their bills have agreed to say that shouldn't expire by January, that they're going to extend that deadline. So my thought is once they get that approved, that will be approved, in which case what will happen on our end is these programs will continue to run until we run out of money. And that includes the $10 million state one, because those dollars came from the federal government as well. So yeah, and again, these programs right now at least are unique to Pierce County. King County has a similar one. Snohomish may run similar ones, but if you're in Thurston, Yakima and stuff, unfortunately they haven't stood up their rental assistance program until the state's dollars make it to them. And while the county is just now receiving those state dollars, we as Pierce County have the benefit of already having the infrastructure in place to roll out those dollars quickly, to seek the applications with all of you and our providers and everything. Other counties like Thurston counties are standing these up from the ground up. And so that kind of complicates things and slows things down. So for those of you who are facing clients in other counties, what I would say to them is, I would expect in the next, month, you'll start hearing these programs stood up in those other counties. Some of the larger counties like Thurston may be faster to stand it up than something like Yakima. When we're looking at all this infrastructure, counties without active human services departments and the resources we have in Pierce and King County are already at a disadvantage because they're having to stand up programs they've never stood up. And we're also seeing that at the city level. So, the city of Bonnie Lake and Sumner and Key Penn have all received some dollars from the CARES Act, but they may not have the infrastructure to roll out a rental assistance program and such. So the Human Services Department at the county, I have meetings tomorrow with Bonnie Lake and Sumner. We're having meetings with these localities, helping guide them on how they shape community programs. Maybe since we're running rental assistance, maybe it's utility assistance, maybe it's supporting Wi-Fi and some of these other things. And then the other thing we're doing is we're offering ourselves to run those programs for them. So if the county can step in and help out wherever we can, we are trying to do that for these programs. And what that means is, I have counterparts in Pierce County staff who are assigned to Puyallup right now. They're assigned to Lakewood. And so we're kind of doing jobs that we never anticipated that we would be doing, just to try to get these resources out into our community and help out however we can. So that's a lot. I know that's a lot. So I will stick around for questions if anybody has anything. And then in the chat, I will send this presentation. I will also send my email address and phone number. If you guys have any questions for me after this, you can always reach out.
Hey, thank you, all three of you, for your presentations. I want a copy, of course, and I do have it recorded as well. So are there any questions from anyone? You can unmute yourself to ask the question. No need to raise your hand. Most people don't have their video on, so I cannot see you. Okay, I just see in the chat that everybody wants a copy and the recording if possible. If there are no questions, I would like to thank everyone for being here. And we can actually end this meeting a few minutes early. Well, obviously I have everyone's email address because that's how you got here to the meeting. I appreciate everyone coming. Please get your applications in, whether it's to Uni and Renee or to Pierce County Human Services. Get them in there with the understanding that it will take some time. I had also posted this to the Washington State Unemployment Support Group. So there are some folks there that I need to send some answers to. And as soon as I leave here, that's what I'm going to do. If there's nothing else, thank you for being here tonight, and I hope you have a good evening. Bye.
Everybody.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Yune.
Bye. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Sean, thank you. Good presentation. Great presentation.
Thanks so much. I'm sending it now. Hopefully Roxanne can get it to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Good job, Roxanne.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Connor, bye-bye. Sarah.
Hi, Darren.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Got it.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, it took me a minute to find where I saved the presentation. So
No
all
problem.
right, I got it, and now everybody's gone. So hopefully you can get that to everybody.
I will.
Thanks for having me, Roxanne. If you need the county to come to any other meetings or anything else, just let us know. We'll do our best to be available.
Valerie lives right down the street from me, literally right down the street and around the
Just
corner.
knock on her door, tell her, hey. I get that all. I don't live far from Nativity House, so sometimes I'm walking by and I run into staff as they walk out, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come over to this meeting?" I'm like, "All right, yeah." So
Yeah, when she moved out here, I saw her at the Homeless Coalition, and she said, "Oh, I moved to the Key Pen." And I said, "Where'd you move?" And she said, "Joima Beach Farms." And I said, "Where?" And she said, "Oh, Dave and Kim's house." And "Where they moved to? Why? Where are they?" "Oh, they moved to Tacoma because Kim's health." And I went, "Oh, okay."
yeah, that's
I
a
know
good.
you live.
I love
I'm
Tacoma.
the house with the 2-story garage.
I mean, I hear great things about Key Pen. I talk to Valerie about it all the time, but it is nice. I walk to work and everything. Well, not now. I work here.
I do
but,
too.
You know, it is nice when I walk to work.
Right.
Hey,
Well,
Sean, I
thank
have
you.
a quick question for you. You had mentioned you guys are trying to do outreach with, via like summer meals programs and things like that. I have a community I work with out in Eastern Pierce County that has both a summer meals program for youth, but then they also do a weekly community dinner and have been handing out flyers with their drive-through meal pickups. And I wanted to know, are you the person I would connect with the meal coordinator to help get some of the information out?
So yeah, if you want to give them pass along my contact information, I think that would be perfect, and I will get them. Basically, how things are working at the county right now operationally. We've all been activated with the Department of Emergency Management. So in the Department of Emergency Management, there is the community branch. So I report to the community branch, which is currently led by John Barbie.